with you? Knew all the things we knew. Would you stand up for truth? Or would you turn away too? And what if you saw all of the things that's wrong? Would you stand tall and strong? Or would you turn and walk away? What would you do if you knew all the things we knew? Would you stand up for truth? Or would you turn away too?
Hi everybody, welcome to the Keeping It Real Reality Check Show. I'm your host, Keeping It Real, and as always, this is my reality check for you today. If you didn't know, today is September 11, 2013, the 12-year anniversary of the attacks on 9/11. Some strange things that, of course, I want to cover today, but for those of you who don't remember, I mean, we were supposedly attacked by al-qaeda on September 11, 2001. These 19 terrorists supposedly flew 2 planes into the North and South Tower of the World Trade Center on 9/11. The jet fuel supposedly melted the steel for the first time in world history and causing the 2 110-story buildings to collapse at free fall speed. That was New York's attack. The Washington, D.C. attack, in summary, basically is that an inexperienced pilot flew a 747 3 feet off the ground, slamming it into the Pentagon and killing hundreds of people on 9/11. And then, of course, you have the hijacked plane that crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, that the news media and the mainstream media basically said that the people riding in the plane, the passengers of the plane, tried to overtake the plane to stop the terrorists from crashing it into the U.S. Capitol. And in doing so, the plane nosedived in a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And that's the general gist of what occurred that day, and I disagree with, well, every single bit of it. I do believe that 2 planes crashed into the towers in 9/11. I do, however, do not believe that jet fuel, which only burns 800 degrees, melted hardened construction steel that day, causing the building to collapse at freeze-fall speed. Totally impossible. Jet fuel only burns 800 degrees. Hardened construction steel, the type used on those towers, starts to get soft, basically at 2,300 degrees. So it's virtually impossible for the official lie that we were told to be anywhere near true. Science says and begs to differ. You know, I really want to make this video worthwhile. I mean, I've made videos, you know, every year since, pretty much every year since the attacks occurred, and in between then, talking about the attacks on 9/11 and everything that I don't believe occurred that day, and then of course I talk about the things that I do believe occurred that day. And I think that there are enough of us now, millions of us 9/11 truthers out there now that are out there making videos and expressing our problems with the lie that we were told. And I'm going to go beyond that today, since it has been 12 years, and just touch on some things that I think are important to me on this day. This morning, of course, I watched President Obama give his 9/11 memorial speech today, and for some reason it strikes me a lot different than any time in the last 12 years on this date, simply because President Obama has, with over the last year and a half, been supporting al-qaeda in Libya and in Egypt, Tunisia, and in Syria, in supporting them. I mean, giving them money and weapons to overthrow their governments so that al-qaeda can instill their own leadership with radical Islam in those countries. And the reason it should be obvious why it strikes me so hard is that our U.S. president is supporting al-qaeda, the people who attacked us on 9/11, 12 years ago. And the fact that he supports al-Qaeda and was just until yesterday willing to attack the Syrian government in support of al-Qaeda, a branch of it known as the al-nusra in Syria, he supported them. He wanted to bomb Assad, claiming that Assad had used chemical weapons when al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, openly admits that they were the ones that carried out the attacks. UN investigations over the last year has investigated numerous chemical attacks that have occurred in Syria and openly say that it was the Syrian rebels who did it. So on this 9/11, when we have our president openly supporting al-Qaeda in Syria, trying to get rid of that government, Assad's government, so al-Qaeda can get a stronger foothold and possibly put one of their own as a leader in there. Now, I guess what a lot of people don't understand is that the Syrian rebels, the opposition forces, when that whole thing started back in March 2011, when the whole Arab Spring thing started, when Libya fell and Gaddafi was killed, and Hosni Mubarak in Egypt was taken out of office, and Morsi was put in by radical Islamists with the Muslim Brotherhood, that whole Arab Spring thing, and now Syria going on. All of those events started as according to the news, that they were Libyan people, Egyptian people, Tunisian people, Syrian people rising up against the dictators of their countries and wanting democracy. That's how it was painted to us. Well, a lot of people don't know that the attacks on Libya and Benghazi and the NATO attacks in Libya were led by the Obama administration, who completely ignored Congress and followed the wills of the United Nations and led an attack against Gaddafi so that the Islamic radicals could overtake the so-called rebellion of the people and overtake it and put their own Muslim Brotherhood Islamic radical in office in Libya. And in Egypt, the same exact thing happened. Rebellion, revolution, claiming democracy, wanted to get rid of the dictatorship. Mubarak is gone. Morsi, strong affiliation with the Muslim Brotherhood and al-Qaeda, was put into presidency. And then, of course, Syria, we have President Assad, who has, up until recently, been a U.S. ally, is now the same exact thing that has occurred in Libya, Tunisia, Egypt, and now Syria. People supposedly rising up and wanting to get rid of their dictator and replace it with one of their own. Each one of these started up as so-called revolutions. Each one of these were overrun by al-Qaeda Islamic radicals wanting to push a global caliphate, a world ruled by Sharia law. And the only way they can do that is they have to have their Arab Spring. Their Arab Spring was the entire Middle East and Northern Africa, basically all their leaders being replaced with Islamic radicals, people who want this global caliphate, this world ruled by Sharia law. So on this 9/11, this message to me seems to be the most important thing that all of us need to be paying attention to, is that our president is supporting a global caliphate. He wants the Muslims, the Islamic Muslims, because this isn't just Muslims, guys. It's not me just attacking Muslims. It's not. It's a very radical side of Muslims. The same radical Islam that attacked us on 9/11 are the same people that on this day Obama wants to send military support, airstrike supports to in Syria, so they can gain a foothold of that country and take over Syria. Now, that is what's killing me the most on this anniversary. I just watched the guy's speech talking about, oh, how we should remember the people who died that day, and he did a couple of fake tears, and it's just killing me. Just the other day, yesterday, he was on the news demanding that the United States attack Syria, President Assad, with cruise missiles, with Russia warning us not to do it, otherwise there would be World War III, China doing the same thing, Venezuela doing the same thing, the United Nations saying don't do it, but President Obama, let me say his name correctly, Barack Hussein Obama, was going to do it anyways. And it was the threat of World War III. That was it. I mean, he didn't go for congressional approval. He canceled the vote because he didn't want to be embarrassed in front of the world that his Congress said no, and he was going to do it anyway. But under the threats of World War III, he backed off. Why? Because the Russian government, Vladimir Putin, stepped forward and said, hey, listen, you know, we can't have this. We can't have you attacking Syria. They're our ally. I tell you what, Vladimir Putin goes in there and says, hey, why don't you just give us your chemical weapons, not give us, but give it to the international community so that they can get rid of it. That's all that had to be done. But Obama wanted to attack President Assad with no evidence whatsoever that he was responsible for the chemical attacks, and hundreds of videos, hundreds of photos, hundreds of web pages set up by al-qaeda openly admit that they were the ones that used it on the civilian people, populace of Syria, and that they were willing to do it again, this time in Israel. So, yet Barack Hussein Obama, our president, who I believe is a radical Islamist, put in there by powerful banks and corporations, and mainly Saudi Arabia's influence in our government, the Muslim Brotherhood's influence in our own government. So, I mean, I don't think the guy's an American. I don't think he's a constitutionalist. I obviously don't believe that because he has yet to prove that. But I do believe that the guy is an Islamic radical working for a global caliphate. And the fact that he's there today on this day, I would much rather have not heard anything from that guy except for the lies and bullshit that he told us today. He was on the verge of bringing us to World War III yesterday. Today it's morn. And this morning the attacks of 9/11, because we were attacked by al-qaeda and 3,000 people died. Sympathy at the same point just yesterday was willing. I know I'm just ranting and going over this, but it just blows me away that our president is supporting al-qaeda in Syria and in Egypt and in Libya and in multiple other, like 22 other countries in the Middle East that he wants to help. It really comes down that he just wants a global caliphate. The people who support him and back him financially and tell him what to do every day need this global caliphate, or at least the fear of it, in order to promote their world order. And that's what's going on in the world today, and that's what's going on this September 11th anniversary, 12-year anniversary today, and that's what's got me burning my ass. It's insane. I think we listen to too much of this shit, the lies and deception being told to us by our president and those who work for him, because there are lots of senators, Democratic and Republican, that are Muslim as well in our Congress and in the House and in the Senate, and also members of our Pentagon are radical Islamists as well, and they've all been put there, at least in the Pentagon, by the Obama administration. So this day, this 12th anniversary, to me, it just burns my ass. I would much rather have not even seen or heard Obama today. So I hope that the rest of you guys wake up and realize, as the next weeks, days, maybe months go by, that there is going to be another chemical attack. There will be. There is going to be another call for war without anyone's approval. I'm sure that when this chemical attack or this false flag event, a nuclear attack possibly happens, that the American people will fall right in step behind Obama and say, let's do this, because that's the plan. Now, I just hope all you guys just wake up and don't fall for that, because it is coming. I don't doubt that at all. So I hope you guys are paying attention, man. Don't believe everything you're being told by that fucker, especially, or by any of our senators, you know, the majority House leaders, or anything like that, because they're all full of shit and they're all lying to you. So, my best advice on this anniversary: remember those who died, and remember how they died, you know, and remember that it was a false flag event. Because steel and concrete structures have never fallen in the history of mankind except for 3 times. And all 3 times happened on 9/11. It just doesn't happen. The only way it happens is with controlled demolitions. 210-story buildings pancaking on themselves, according to the official story, at half a second for each floor to fall on the floor beneath it, and boom, 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 all the way down. A half second for each floor would have been like 55.5 seconds for the entire 110-story building to fall in on itself, when in reality, you can watch it all day long. It took 10 seconds, give or take, you know, a half a second, for those buildings to start to fall, to hit the ground. If you were on top of the towers when they started to fall and you threw a billiard ball at the same time, they both would have hit the ground at the same time, the building and the billiard ball. That's free fall speed. The only way that can happen is if the floors above had no resistance from the floors below. And the only time that occurs is in a controlled demolition. There are hundreds of thousands of eyewitness accounts hearing explosions that day, from firefighters, from policemen, from people on the streets, people inside the building, people who are working in the sub-basements, everywhere throughout the buildings, saying that there were explosions before the plane hit, when the building was smoldering black smoke, which is an indication of a fire going out, by the way. But there are thousands of reports of explosions going off before, during, and even after the collapse. So the world has not ignored it, because, you know, tens of millions of people have woken up to the lies of 9/11. And I guess today it's just important that you Google if you have any questions and seek out your own answers. As a matter of fact, stay away from Google. Use Ipquick or some other search engine, just any search engine. Do your own research, man. Don't believe the lies. Don't be led like sheep, man, into believing something that is absolutely not true. A lot like these sarin gas chemical attacks that supposedly occurred in Syria at the hands of President Assad, who openly says, you know, denies it, and the al-qaeda, al-nusra, openly admit it. Quit believing all the lies. Do your own research, man. You have a valuable tool. Even though I think computers in general are the downfall of society, because most use them to either watch porn or do stupid games 24 hours a day, I think the tools that you're watching me on right now can be very valuable if you use them. Use the power of Google, even though I hate Google because it's government Google, G-O Google. Anyways, use it. Do your own research, man. When the news tells you something, check it out for yourself. Just Google it and come up with your own answers. I mean, chances are you're going to find varying stories, you know, both sides of the story. But really the only way to get to the truth is to listen to both sides of the story and come to your own conclusions. Don't just listen to one side, guys, because if you do, you're going to be led astray. And I guess that's it. That's my message. Do your own research. Don't believe the lies that you have been constantly told since the beginning in 9/11, 2001. There is a new world order in the making. And, you know, you got the Department of Homeland Security buying billions now, 2.4 billion rounds of ammunition, buying MRAPs, which are armored military personal troop carriers. They're buying guns left and right. You've got Homeland Security, who is an unconstitutional police force, federal police force, created to police us. So since we weren't the ones, the American people weren't the ones who attacked us on 9/11, it was al-qaeda. But you don't see, you know, Department of Homeland Security, created after 9/11, going after al-qaeda. You see them going after American citizens. You can go right to their websites and look up their definition of a terrorist. And it's, you know, me, you, your mom, your aunt, your uncle, your brother, your fellow employees at work, your neighbors. It's not some Islamic radicals that want to come over and do us harm. And that should concern all of us on this 9/11. So I think my message is getting too long. I'm already 19 minutes into it. And I know this seems like a rant, but it's not. It's just me voicing my concerns, my anger about what's going on today, yesterday, last week, and for the last 12 years since 9/11 occurred. So that's it, guys. This is my reality check for today. Don't believe the bullshit you are being told. Do your own research as far as anything you hear, from what I tell you to what the government tells you, and you find out and draw your own conclusion to what's going on in the world, because there is a massive propaganda operation going on, and the networks on TV are all covering. You got to listen to all sides, and that's really it, man. Don't believe the lies. Seek the truth, man. The truth will set you free. As always, this is Keeping It Real. Peace.
Would you do if you knew all the things we knew? Would you stand up for truth?